When you're looking at going abroad to study, the competition is a lot lesser. For this reason, many students are looking at going abroad to study. The drawback is that
somebody wants to consider for undergraduate US na என்னென்ன options இருக்கு actually.
any course under the sun is possible to do in any of these countries. The minus side is basically when you're looking at the US, they look 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th grade. This is the time, that is high school is the time that you have to show that you have been concentrating not just on your studies but also on something else besides it. The biggest problem that we have...
How you see Singapore developing for UG actually?
See, one thing that you have to note is that the students who are going at an undergraduate level to study abroad look at studying, and the closest universities which are among the top 50 in the world are based out of China and Singapore. So compared to China, definitely Singapore is an option that they will look at. Basically, like you mentioned, because it's just 3 hours by flight. Second thing, it's
somebody want to send them to abroad for undergraduate now, which all the other country you suggest?
Irrespective of which country that you go to, yes. If you're looking at UK, if you're looking at Oxford's or the Cambridge or the London School of Economics, their tuition fee is going to be really, really high. So it depends upon where.
நம்ம சேனல்ல நிறைய நம்ம மாஸ்டர்ஸை பத்தி பேசியிருக்கோம். ஆனா நிறைய பேரண்ட்ஸ் வந்து சார் என்னோட சில்ட்ரனை நான் அண்டர் கிராஜுவேட்டுக்கு அனுப்பணும், எங்க அனுப்பலாம், என்ன காஸ்ட் ஆகும், நிறைய இது மாதிரி கொஸ்டின்ஸ்லாம் கேட்டாங்க. இன்னைக்கு பாட்காஸ்ட்ல நம்ம யூஜி வெளியில போகணும்னா என்னென்ன ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டிஸ் இருக்கு, என்ன காஸ்ட் இருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறத பார்ப்போம். அதுக்காக நம்மளோட மிஸ்ஸஸ் ரஷ்மி இணைஞ்சிருக்காங்க. She is also a director at Education Matters. Thanks for joining actually.
Thank you very much for having me, Lakshmi.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk about, kind of an opportunity available for, somebody wants to pursue their undergraduate abroad, because there are, as per the statistics, though from India last year, roughly about 13.5 lakh students gone abroad for studying. But அதில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு 1 to 1.5 lakh students தான் அண்டர் கிராஜுவேட்டுக்கு போயிருக்காங்க. அதுலேயும் மேஜராக பார்த்தீங்கன்னா UK is around 8 to 9,000 students, roughly about ஒரு 10-15,000 students for maybe for Singapore. Then other big destination is US and Australia. These are all the 4 major destinations students have gone. So what is your thought on that actually?
What we have been seeing is post the pandemic, the number of students at the undergraduate level going abroad has increased drastically.
Okay, that's good.
So that's something that we are seeing. Also, what you would see is the number of students graduating from schools is increasing every year.
Okay.
So admission is becoming even more competitive as we go down the lane. So you will know if you are looking at some of the colleges in Chennai or in Delhi, for example. If you have above 90%, only some of the universities are giving you application forms. So we are going into that level because the number of students graduating from schools is increasing every year.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at going abroad to study, the competition is a lot lesser.
Okay.
So for this reason, many students are looking at going abroad to study. The drawback is that it can be an expensive option in some cases. There are universities which, give you free education or the tuition fees lesser, but most of the students who are going abroad to study at this point in time are people who can afford that 3 or 4 years of undergraduate degree.
Well, I take your point here, because the biggest challenge, if somebody is really good at studies, their ultimate aim, if they are in Tamil Nadu or wherever, whichever the part they wanted to get into, IIT அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க அப்படின்னா, and today getting into IIT is like, it's like a dream. Okay, but அதே ranked university, if they wanted to go same somewhere around, say QS ஒரு 100 rankingல ஒரு அப்ராட்ல போகணும்னா இந்த அளவுக்கு காம்படிஷன் இல்லை. பட் த சேலஞ்ச் இஸ் அஃபோர்டபிலிட்டி, நோ டவுட் அபவுட் இட். பிகாஸ் ஐடியில் படிக்கணும்னா ஒரு 4-5 lakhsல அவங்க முடிச்சிடலாம். பட் whereas if they have to study undergraduate in some of the best university, okay, it's not going to be nothing less than 15-20 lakhs minimum per annum. And it even go to 30-40 lakhs per annum also. Let's talk about, there are 4 countries which is majorly from Indian students goes to abroad for undergraduate: Singapore, UK, Australia and US actually. So let's talk about one by one. We talks about US. Okay. So what kind of an option available for somebody who wants to consider? I mean, for undergraduate US na in options actually.
See, any course under the sun is possible to do in any of these countries.
Okay.
The minus side is when it comes to something like dentistry or medicine or perhaps veterinary sciences. Certain countries getting into a law undergraduate degree is slightly difficult.
Okay.
But the most difficult per se is for anything related to medicine or dentistry.
Okay.
So you have to be really exceptional if you are looking at any of those programs. Otherwise, it is quite easy to get into any of the high-end universities. If you're excluding the, say, for the top 5 in the UK or the top Ivy League institutions in the US, it is pretty easy to get. If you have about 80%, you can get into the top 100 universities in the US.
See, the US, one of the things which they talk about profiling, okay, because they don't consider, because the acceptance rates in the top university is less than 5% actually.
Exactly.
Okay, I mean, if that is the case, IIT acceptance rates will be not even 1% actually. We'll talk about little more profiling means what actually, because the students doing something in Olympiad, okay, say if they are doing well in from lower grade, definitely that is a very good one. Or the student is doing something on what else? What all the other things?
See, basically, there was a time when students used to participate in MUN,
okay,
the mock, United Nations,
Model
United Nations summits that were happening. But that has become so common now that many of the universities are not accepting it. It's become, and social service, a lot of students start doing social service. But that too, they see the consistency there. How long has the student been doing social service? It is just one-off. Or has he or she been doing it consistently for the last 3 or 4 years?
That makes a difference.
And they look at, basically when you're looking at the US, they look 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th grades.
Okay.
So this is the time, that is, high school is the time that you have to show that you have been concentrating not just on your studies but also on something else besides it.
Okay.
And the biggest problem that we have seen is that they go on to these niche areas where they say, I've been doing social service, I've been taking part for MUN, but there are a lot of other things that they can do that they haven't thought about it. One thing that students are doing now is they are shadowing, if they're looking at a career in, say, medicine, they are shadowing a doctor for about a year, finding out what he does, how he does it, how he deals with patients. Yes, you might not know exactly how to treat a person, but you will know what the job entails. The second thing is, a lot of students are doing summer internships, and especially at universities like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Stanford. So that carries a lot of weight. Students are doing online courses related to artificial intelligence and data sciences and psychology. So these added courses, it may be 5 courses, each course might be for a duration of 2 or 3 months, but they also carry a lot of weight now. The question comes to STEM, because the majority of the students, I mean, especially going abroad, especially these are all the countries, it's for STEM related program only actually. Okay. I mean, it can be, and if I again boil down, STEM is computing again, coming down to computing. Maybe there are a few exceptional of going to other engineering subjects actually. Okay. Let's talk about, because when it comes to undergraduate, okay, the percentage of students who studying, okay, I mean, especially international students, it is little lesser compared to, I mean, other things actually. So what kind of diversity will be there? How this will be taken up from the universities too actually? See, one thing that I want to talk about here is that when you're looking at Indian students going abroad to study, there is a large percentage of Indian students who are coming from international schools. See, 5 or 10 years back, we had a state syllabus, a matriculation, and a CBSE board.
Correct.
But now we are having IBs, we are having GCSEs, and various boards are coming into play. And many students who have studied in an international board, for them to study in an Indian institution at an undergraduate level is very difficult, because they have most of their syllabus is studying everything not by rut learning, but by understanding and writing projects, doing seminars and things like that. For those students to do an undergraduate degree in India is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So many of these international students who study in these international boards are looking at pursuing higher education abroad.
See, here I have a point here, valid point, because today some of these international syllabus schools roughly charging nothing less than 10 lakhs rupees actually.
Yes, so for them to study abroad is a piece of cake.
Piece of cake actually. So they are also started looking at Singapore as a good choice because 4 hours not travel. I mean, they don't have to make their children for a longer one because they think that by chance if they wanted a support because recently I was there in Singapore. I could see a lot of people who are able to afford about 15-20 lakhs. They're looking at a choice of sending it to Singapore, and they said later I can send it to US or UK or Australia, other countries actually. So how do you see that? Because Singapore, one thing which I saw, obviously if they get into NUS or NTU, nothing like it. Yeah. But it's not going to be a easy task. Getting into IIT itself difficult means getting into NUS, NTU is still more difficult actually. Okay. So how do you see, because how you see Singapore developing for UG actually?
Okay, so see, one thing that you have to notice that the students who are going at an undergraduate level to study abroad are 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, 17 they finished 12th standard.
Yeah. So parents are always, they are brought up in a bubble in India. Where they go, what they do is always followed by the parents.
Yeah.
So suddenly to break away from that bubble is slightly difficult. So parents look at studying, and the closest universities, which are among the top 50 in the world, are based out of China and Singapore.
Yeah.
So compared to China, definitely Singapore is an option that they will look at.
Correct.
So we are seeing a lot of students looking at Singapore as an option for higher education.
Yeah.
Basically, like you mentioned, because it's just 3 hours by flight. Second thing, it's a very safe country.
Very true. Very true.
So, safety is paramount for many of these parents. The third thing is, the student should also be independent. You cannot have a student who, wants everything done by the parents. 2 days the parents are not at home, they feel homesick. Those kind of students find it very difficult to go abroad to study.
Very true.
So irrespective of whether it's Singapore or anywhere else around the world, so the students should be independent. And last but not the least, the student should know what is right and what is wrong. Suddenly, when they are not in the control of their parents, this is one of the biggest worries that most parents have.
Okay.
You're bringing the child up in a bubble. Then suddenly you're saying, okay, go to Singapore and study. There is no control as to, nobody monitoring the child.
Yeah.
So there's no control as to what the student can do or what cannot do.
Should not do.
So the student should know what is right and wrong.
Okay.
And Singapore is one country that closely monitors because it is a small country and there is only so much that a student can do there. So from that perspective, parents prefer children to go to Singapore, and it's easy. If there is a slight problem, it's just a 3.5 hour flight, like you said. So that is one reason why Singapore is becoming quite popular.
See, when it comes to undergraduate, parents' sort of biggest concern is safety. Because unless until safety is being assured, other things, whatever is there or not there, it has not been considered actually. So safety vandirchina, which all the other country, other than Singapore, obviously Singapore is one of the safest place to live. Google oda mosam ellathiyume monitored. Everything has been monitored actually. Even I heard that recently I was there in Singapore, students must have an attention, international student must have an attendance of 90%, including there is something called mandatory study hours. Adukku unga college la attendance ponnu. So it's one way safety ingira Singapore is one of the best place. Other than Singapore actually, if somebody want to send them to abroad for undergraduate which all the other country you suggest?
See, irrespective of which country that you go to, yes, when it comes to a country like Singapore or Dubai, there is a lot of monitoring that happens even if the parents are not there. There's cameras everywhere. You would have seen reels on, Insta where they leave their mobile phones unattended for, 24 hours. And when they come back, the phones are still there. Because they know that it's been monitored by cameras. So besides Singapore, Dubai is another country that is quite popular among Indian students, where, again, it's just 3.5, 4 hours flight.
But Dubai is not an option for UG, no, because many of the people who even lives there, they're looking at going abroad actually. I mean, maybe it's safest, I don't know, maybe, but I feel like it's for a UG, it is not a great choice.
There are a lot of universities, like for example, many of the Indian as well as the foreign universities have set up operations in Dubai.
Coming up, yeah, SP Jain is
And
there,
BITS Bilani,
Middlesex is there, BITS Bilani is there,
Uh,
Redwood is there. Yeah.
So you have a lot of universities, they are picking up. The thing that students are doing now, or parents are doing now, is if you want to bring down the expenses also, there are two things. One is the budget and the other is the safety. So what parents are now trying to do is they do 2 years of undergraduation in, say, Middlesex, Dubai campus, or Wollongong, Australia, Dubai campus. University of Birmingham has a Dubai campus,
Yeah.
and University of Birmingham is among the top 100 universities in the world.
Yeah.
So you can just go and study a year or 2 years in Birmingham, Dubai campus, and then do a twinning program, shift to the UK campus
Yeah.
for the last 2 years or the
Yeah.
final year.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you want to do it. So you
Correct.
can do it. Yes, all said and done, it's always wise and better to study in the primary campus. But if you're looking at an option where safety is a concern, then this is one thing that you can do. The
Right.
other thing you have to consider is that most universities, irrespective of whether they are in the US, UK, Australia, Canada, they are pretty safe within the campus. So as far as an undergraduate student is concerned, we ask parents to look at accommodation within the campus, at least for the first year.
Yeah. So recently IIT also opened in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of these universities have their own on-campus accommodation. So during the first year, it's always wise to, or at least for the first 6 months minimum, look at on-campus accommodation.
On campus is little comparatively expensive than staying
Staying
outside,
outside,
right?
yes.
Right? But safety, when safety concern, it's better to.
Also, you're going to a new country where you don't know the place. You don't know which are the safe areas, which are the unsafe areas. You haven't made friends.
Yeah.
Once you stay for 6 months within the university managed accommodation, you would have made friends. So 3 or 4 friends can take up accommodation outside the campus. You will know which are the safe zones outside the campus. See, generally within the campus, there is no problem. Because most and immediate surroundings as well, because most of these businesses outside the campus depends on the university in terms of students, in terms of workforce.
Yeah.
So a lot of the area around the university is safe, yes, but whatever precaution you're taking in India, you have to take those precautions
Obviously.
abroad as well. They are much safer, but after 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, if you're walking down a street which is not well lit, which is frequented by drug peddlers or pickpockets, then yes, avoid it. Do not travel in a bus that is literally empty and you're the only person in it. Then yes, during weekends you might have the hooligans or people coming in into the bus and traveling with you, and you might not be able to control the outcome. They might be drunk. So yes, they are much safer, but the precautions that you take in India, please make sure that you take the precautions there as well.
Because see, one of the biggest thing parents ask for is what is the cost and whether will I be able to afford, actually is the question which is talk about it. Let's talk about the cost of all the major 4 countries which parents look at today. I mean, Singapore, US and UK and Australia. We'll also talk about scholarship later. First we'll talk about, cost actually. I mean, I could see Singapore is roughly about 15-20 lakhs per annum or maximum of 25-30 lakhs except NTU or NUS as a choice actually.
Yes.
So how about UK? How about US?
See, the higher the ranking of the university, the higher the tuition fee.
Tuition fees, yeah.
So you have to look at what your budget is and then plan to which university you want to go to study.
Okay.
And which level you want to go to study.
Okay.
One thing you have to look at is the highly ranked universities, the tuition fee. Say, for example, if you're looking at UK, if you're looking at the Oxfords or the Cambridge or the London School of Economics, their tuition fee is going to be really, really high.
Okay.
So it depends upon whether it's a lab-based or a non-lab-based program.
Okay.
So if the ranking for the business school is high, see, all the universities will not have equal rankings. Some universities will have a high ranking for the business school, but their engineering ranking might not be as great.
Okay.
So there will be difference in the tuition fee based on that as well.
Okay, based on the, I mean, that particular program's ranking actually.
Yeah, the school's ranking as
School
well.
ranking, yeah.
Say for example, there will be business schools that are triple accredited.
Yeah.
And only 1% of the business schools in the world are triple accredited.
Yeah.
So if you're trying
Can
for
you name few?
So if you're looking at the UK, you have University of Lancaster,
Yeah.
Warwick,
Okay.
Sheffield.
Yeah.
These are all triple. Reading. These are all triple accredited. Aston. So tuition fee for the business programs are going to be really high.
Okay.
So it could be anywhere between 25 to 30 lakhs. It can go
per annum.
Per annum.
Per annum. And that's like nothing like a crore per, I mean, for the undergraduate actually. Okay.
But if you're looking at a university, a business school that is just double accredited, their tuition fee will be slightly lower.
Lesser. Okay.
It'll be about 20 to 25.
Okay.
If you're looking at only a single accreditation for the business school, then it'll be 18 to 20. So it keeps changing. So it depends upon the ranking as well as the course that you want to do.
Okay. Okay. So what about the living expenditure actually?
So UK has just revised their living expenses lately.
Yeah.
1,300. Yeah. So if it is within London, it is,
yeah, 1,300
per month. And if it is outside London,
yeah.
But this is what the British High Commission is saying that you need, recommending for you to get your visa.
Yeah.
So this is the funding that you have to show. Yeah. But what you actually spend depends upon your lifestyle.
Okay. So for the visa, do they have to show all the 4 years funding, or if they show the 1 year funding with the tuition fees is enough? Actually?
Generally, 1 year tuition fee and 1 year's living and accommodation expenses is what universities look at.
When it comes to US, because US is known for giving a generous scholarship compared to other country actually. A lot of students goes to US, especially for UG. Predominantly, they have some of other scholarship, they've got it actually. Let's talk about that actually. So when somebody wanted to looking at scholarship as a choice, US as a choice, what they must do?
See, again, it depends on the grades that they have in their standard 12th. Or the A levels or the board, whichever board they're looking at.
Yeah.
It depends upon the statement of purpose. The statement of purpose is really, really important.
Okay.
It is very cliched now to start a statement of purpose with a quote and explain whatever you have done. They say in 10th I got so much marks, in 12th I got so much marks. But all of this is available in your mark sheets. Why are you repeating the same thing again in your statement of purposes? So avoid those. Make sure that it is genuine. It is not cliched. Do not begin with, when I thought of pursuing my higher education, I thought of US. From when I was a child, I was thinking of doing computer science. These are all very cliched. So please make sure you don't use these cliched statements. Do not begin your essay with the quote. Students talk about only their strengths. They do not talk about their weaknesses. You have to talk about your weaknesses and how you overcame those weaknesses or those problems that you faced in your life. So those are important things that you mention in your statement of purpose as well.
Very true.
Why you are looking at this particular university, why this particular course. Also, what many students forget to mention is, once you finish the course, what are your plans? They forget to mention that. Immediately on graduation, this is where I see myself. 5 years down the lane, this is where I want to see myself. Also, they also forget to mention how they can contribute to the university community.
Yeah. Okay.
So if these pointers are talked about, then the statement of purpose becomes really strong.
Okay. So, I mean, if a student want to go to undergraduate abroad, okay, so what is the age or how before they have to start preparing themselves? Actually?
So when they are in the 11th, when they enter the 11th grade, it's always wise to start. You need 24 months to research on the courses and the country that you want to look at. Because no country is perfect. It depends upon what you're looking at when you're pursuing your undergraduate degree.
Sure.
So some parents will say, I want to look at US because my relatives are there. So they can keep an eye on the child. So some parents will say, no, I want a close proximity. So they look at UK, there, but other than US. Or they might look at Singapore or Dubai. XYZ. So
what are all the eligibility exams actually?
So basically, if you're looking at destinations like UK, they look at only the English language examination.
But if they take an IB board, do they need?
No, they don't. It depends upon the grades. Like even if they look at a CBSE, if they've taken up at CBSE or ICSE, or if any of the boards, they will look at the standard 10th and 12th English percentage of marks.
Okay.
So if the English percentage of marks in standard 10th and 12th is really good,
Hmm.
then many universities will waive off the IELTS requirement.
Okay. Even for undergraduate.
Even for undergraduate.
How about for US?
US, that rarely happens. So students from India will definitely have to take up the IELTS or the TOEFL or the
SAT.
PT or the SAT is not mandatory at this point in time.
So thanks to COVID.
Yeah, even in the Ivy Leagues, many of the universities are not asking for a SAT scores. There's a lot of pressure on students. We have seen unnecessarily students taking up AP and SAT. Yes, it might help you a little bit, but ultimately, if you're starting from the first year of undergraduation, don't, just beside, you are already taking up a lot of pressure with your 12th. On top of that, you're preparing for your SAT and your APs. Some are doing both SAT and AP together.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
Okay.
So I've had students who've got 80% for standard 12th, has taken up an IELTS examination, has got a 7.5, getting into the top 100 universities in the US.
That's good.
So without a SAT or an AP.
That's good. So we talk about part-time because because until now, whatever we talked about, only the tuition fees. So the living expenditure, if they have to manage themselves, okay, because some of the country has a limitations on a part-time for a people under 18. Under 20, there is a wages also little lesser compared to, 21 and above actually. Okay, so we'll talk about a part-time. Because for a Singapore, it is not allowed. For a private university.
Yeah. And public universities, they put so much pressure on the child. That's one thing that you have to note when you're deciding on the university. If it is a research-based university, so if you look at US, your Ivy League institutions, or the top 50 universities. In the UK, if you look at the Russell Group of universities. In Singapore, if you look at the NUS or Nanyang, they're all research-based universities. So they were simultaneously taking classes as well as doing research. So if you're studying in a research-based university, which is of very high ranking, the minute you put foot into the campus, they're going to bombard you with assignments and projects. So if you miss 1 week of classes, you will not know what is happening in class. So that is the problem with, highly ranked university, because they push the child to perform and better it as and when they go. So if you think that your child is not capable of taking that amount of pressure, then please do not look at the top 100 universities. Look at the universities between 100 and 200.
Okay.
They'll
get the time to...
they will get a breathing space, because many of these universities, the minute you put, like I said, the minute you put foot into the campus, you're going to bombard you with assignments and projects and, whatnot. So if the student says, no, it's new country, I want to just settle down first and then, pick up my education, give me at least 2 or 3 months breathing space, then don't look at the top 100 universities. Look at the ones between 100 and 200, because they might give equal preference to research and teaching.
So if that is the case, they also have to account their living expenditure. Otherwise, to some extent, they can take care of their living expenditure through the part-time, provided if the child is capable enough to do a part-time, also take care of the studies actually. Parents, unga children நீங்க வெளிநாட்டுல யூஜிக்கு அண்டர் கிராஜுவேட் அனுப்பணும்னு நினைக்கிறீங்களா? பயோல உள்ள ஃபார்மை ஃபில் பண்ணுங்க. We are there to help you out actually. Thanks for joining in. Such a wonderful time actually. I'm sure parents should have learned a lot of things about setting their students for undergraduate. Not only the cost, various other challenges what they must face it, how they can how they can overcome it too actually. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi, for having me. I hope I've been able to assist a few of the parents in clarifying any doubts that they have. But I'm sure they'll be in touch with you for any other information they require.
Undoubtedly. Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.